Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a short haul video. Picked up 3 items that I wanted to share with you guys. And it's also a video where I'm going to share a tip about shipping antiques back to the States. So it's kind of a tip that you probably won't have seen anywhere else on any of the other channels. So stay tuned for that. And it's the first weekend in April. It's supposed to be spring. It's still a little bit chilly out, but it's my last weekend before I head back to the States. I'm going back to start some projects at the factory there in Charleston, and I'll be there for about 6 weeks, and we'll see what we can get done during that time. But today I've been out driving around, and I've got this problem that I tend to gravitate towards larger items, the bigger stuff, and it's a problem because that's the little tiny European car. Let me see if I can get it, that I'm transporting it in. So it's just a little thing, and so the plan is when I get back in late May to get a panel van or a small little box truck so I can start doing this full time and get serious about it, because I don't know what it is. I just keep gravitating toward that big stuff. Here's the 3 items that I wanted to share with you. And then there's that tiny little car there, so you can imagine what a challenge that was. But let's take a minute and have a look at them. So this rack here on the left, I think is probably 1950s. It does say that it is from the Cold War era, so it's definitely post-war. Has this kind of original tag that came with it, and on there you can see that PZPR, which is the Socialist Party acronym, and so that would have been Cold War era, and it's really cool. If it hadn't been for that, I would have guessed this was even earlier, because it's made with really heavy materials. That's solid. That's not hollow tubing there, and it's pretty cool. Very industrial, not too decorative, and that's something that I really appreciate about these 2 racks, is that they're not overly decorative. That one is just a little bit there, but they're more industrial, more plain, and they are function before form, so they're really cool. This has a great patina. It's super clean. It's not even dusty, and it's ready to go right to the antique show. So pretty cool. So this lower section is an umbrella stand, and I think at one point it may have had some kind of a like a mesh wire there, or maybe even a solid bottom with a few holes in it. But I thought about maybe putting something in there, but I think it's good just as it is, because most of the umbrellas will have the curved handle that they'll just hang on here, and then that empty space down there will allow them to drip. And very heavy duty coat hangers all the way around. This particular rack is exactly 6 foot 1 inches tall, and it's super heavy. Like I said, the tubing here, it's not actually tubing, this is solid iron, and it's really heavy. So, which brings me to the other rack. Okay, so here's the other rack, and this one's even taller than the first one. I think it's about 6.5 feet tall, maybe a little more. And when I first saw it online, I was kind of worried about it. I thought it might be a reproduction, but after getting there, I could see that it was solid. That's not hollow rolled steel, but that's like a solid core iron sensor there. And if you look really close, you can see some gold flecking. I think at one point this may have been gold color, but it's not overly decorative, which I really like, and it's more function before form. Here's an umbrella place where you can put those in and then hang your coats up here, and it's pretty cool. Just clean it up, clear coat it, and it is ready to go. All the feet there are still intact, and nothing missing, nothing loose. It's really cool. So this is a rolling cart that I purchased, and it's a pretty cool industrial cart. It's very heavy duty, very heavy duty casters on them, and super industrial, and they're all original. And the guy had actually about 25 of them, but because I just had that little car, I barely got this one in the car with the other coat rack. And when I come back in late May, I'm going to buy several more of them because I think they'd be pretty cool as a run, especially if you had a retail location. You could put blue jeans or clothing items or walkout items all over them. So that's really cool. And like I said, you just got to pull this mechanism. And super heavy duty, very substantial cart. And it has kind of a thing about it. So that brings us to the the shipping tip that I wanted to bring to you guys. When you ship antiques from Europe to US, it can be kind of a dangerous thing. So they hook those containers onto cables or lift them with magnets and all kinds of things. And they get bumped around, they get swung around, and it's very easy to get your contents damaged. So there are a couple ways that you can book shipping. You'll go to your freight forwarder when you have the stuff that you want to send back, and they'll ask you, are you going to send a whole container or are you going to send LCL? And LCL is less than a container load. And if you're not sending a whole container, they're probably going to ask you, well, how many cubic meters do you want to send? And for cubic meters, back of the napkin calculation, it's about 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. So if you wanted to just send 2 or 3 cubic meters of stuff back, I came up with kind of a cool little thing that I thought might be helpful, and I'm going to take you into the computer and show you what I came up with. Okay, so here we are back at my Instagram page, and one of the things that I kind of like to purchase are industrial desk lamps or industrial floor lamps. Other items that are maybe not super large, but they're also not really small. They are not very breakable, but they're also not really durable. Some of them have thin metal lampshades or ceramic lampshades, and they need to be protected very well, because when you ship your antiques from Europe to the US, these are not going on planes, they're going on ships, and there are lots of waves when they're en route, and they use these giant clamps and cables and cranes to like lift the containers up and to position them. And they're being stacked, they're being bumped, and these containers are loaded with tonnage. And even if you've just booked an LCL or less than container load, you got your own little square cubic meters in that container, there's going to be other items in there. They're going to consolidate from a few shippers, they're going to fill that container, and they're going to put it all, and there's going to be tons of goods inside that container. So when those cables swing with that ISO shipping container, that weight is going to shift, and you really want to be careful in how you pack, because once that shifts, all kinds of havoc can be visited upon you. So okay, so for those of you who are watching this video from countries that are not on the metric system, you may not be completely familiar with how large a single cubic meter is. So one thing that you can do is go to google.com and put in the search query cubic meter box, and then what you want to do after that is just hit the images tab here, and you're going to get a lot of images with references for the actual volume in meters with a kind of a reference person in there. So I picked just a few out here. You can see just to get a general idea of how large 1 cubic meter is. Now a 40-foot shipping container will actually fit 67 cubic meters in it. So keep that in mind, that they're very large. And if you're going to fill up a shipping container, you're going to need quite a bit of money, because you can fit a lot of antiques in them. So here we have an image with 10 meters. So in both directions, or in all 3 directions, it's larger than your arm span of a human. So we've got one here with 15. And here's a 5. These are just for reference. So when you are shipping a less than container load, they're going to ask you how many cubic meters you need, and so you kind of need an idea depending on what you're trying to ship, and then you can get your quote. So some of the information I'm going to give you today is just very general. I don't have a lot of specifics. I'm kind of new to this game as well. But this year, later this summer, I think I'm going to be ready to make my first shipment, and I will have a lot more concrete information for you guys about my experience and some of the things that I learned along the way. So you may also be wondering, before we get to the main tip, you may also be wondering, what it costs to ship a container for Europe, and that's always a fluctuating thing. But if you look here, and I will put this address in the description below, this is MoveHub, and they did kind of an interesting little thing where they made the average cost for shipping international, and which is kind of a hard information to get. And they based this on leaving from England. So your mileage may vary depending on where you're shipping from and where you're shipping to. And these costs are port to port. So I think what you can calculate for England to US is roughly about $4,000, maybe just a little over. That doesn't include kind of some of the port fees, which probably you're going to have about another $1,000 in port fees. And then on antiques, I think the import duty is going to be somewhere around 1%. Don't quote me on that. And like I said, once I know all this stuff for sure, I'm going to make additional videos as I go through this process. But as far as I can tell right now, it's about a 1% duty, and that includes the cost of shipping, the packing materials, and the containers contents, the value of its contents. So one other interesting thing is if you're in the Midwest, you can actually receive through the Great Lakes. You can receive port-to-port delivery in Chicago. So that is kind of helpful for those people who are not on the coast. And then just to be clear here, if you visit this link, this is starting from England. And based on the color of the country, you can kind of pick that color out, and you will see an average cost per cubic meter. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not true. You will see average cost for an entire shipping container. So that's another thing to keep in mind. When you're shipping less than container load, you're going to pay way more per item for your shipping than you are if you just ship the whole container. So you're not going to be able to divide that by 67 and get your shipping price. It's going to be way higher per cubic meter as compared to the cost if you were shipping the whole container. So you're going to be port to port from England at about $5,000. And if you're shipping a single cubic meter, let's say 3 cubic meters, you may be around $1,500. So keep that in mind. If you have the capital resources at hand, it's better to go ahead and fill your full shipping container, because then price per item, your overhead is much, much lower. So it's something to keep in mind. For me personally, I usually end up spending all my money on getting the actual antiques, so I don't have money for a cheese sandwich. But if you can, you want to hold out and you want to ship as much volume as you can, because with volume becomes lower and lower price for the actual shipment. So that brings me to the main tip for the video today. And when you were shipping antiques, invariably they're going to be things that are delicate, things that can get broken. And we're actually stewards of these items. We can't take any of it to the grave with us. Can't own it forever. So we are just taking care of it during the short time that we own it, and we want to do whatever we can to protect it. Not to mention that broken items really have a negative impact on our bottom line. So I was thinking, what can I do to find a way to ship less than a container load in a way that will really work well, kind of in a modular way, with filling up the cubic meter, specifically 1 to 2 to 3 cubic meters. How can I pack things into that cubic meter? Because typically they want you to put these items on a loadable pallet if you're shipping less than a container load. If you're shipping a full container load, likely they're going to deliver the container to the address where you're storing your antiques, or you'll bring them in a moving truck and then transfer them directly into the container yourself. But if you're shipping less than a container load, they're probably going to want to take delivery. You'll deliver it, or a shipping company will do that logistical segment there in the town where you're at. And those things, you really want to have them on a fork truck friendly kind of a pallet. So I was thinking, how can we, what kind of solutions are available out there? And it occurred to me that there's something that's very ubiquitous everywhere you look in Europe. And it is ideal for shipping your antiques in. So what kind of containers can we use to ship our antiques? I just took the liberty of going to the Walmart website here. And if we look at this here, even these kind of rubber tubs, these are like 59 bucks. They do not offer a lot of protection when it comes to protecting the contents, especially when you consider that there's tonnage in those containers. So, yeah, so we'll have a look through here. I mean, it looks like these are an average of at least $8 to $10, and these are that kind of really thin, brittle plastic that don't even last a week. The Rubbermaid ones are like $30 for each container. And remember, we're trying to kind of fit this neatly into our cubic meters, so in a way that's kind of protected and compact and will ship very well. So you're looking at like $10 to $15 for these little tubs, and they don't offer a lot of protection. So the solution that I came up with is these military equipment boxes. And these are, like I said, they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And there are lots of places around Poland, probably all over Europe, where people buy these from government liquidation auctions, and you can purchase them in the hundreds. And they're about $10 each. Now, the good thing about these is that you can sell them when they get back to the States, because these will have like Polish writing on them. They'll have German writing on them. They'll have Russian writing on them. And some of them are like for rocket launchers and all kinds of munitions and for specialized equipment. And some of them look really funky. When you go to these places, you can buy really neat and interesting ones. If you are saying to yourself right now, hey, that's kind of not my style, I don't import that kind of thing. Well, these things actually have value. Somebody will offer you some money when they get there because they are so cheap. These that we're looking at here are about $10 per box, which is less than half or a third of what Walmart charges for Rubbermaid tubs. Somebody in the States is going to be willing to give you $10 each because they'll be able to take those and resell them in their own antique booth or whatever. They can make furniture out of them. They can do all kinds of things. So if you have that kind of liquid capital up front, you can purchase them. You can even like screw these closed or nail them closed, and nobody's going to be messing with them. And when you get them back to the States, you can get your money back out of them very easily because they are so cheap. So let's just take a look at a few of them. These here, they're 130 centimeters long. So I'm thinking that's about 45 inches, 50 inches or something. Quite a wide box, and it's about $7 that they're asking for that. This is wood. You can put screws right into it, and yeah, these will stack up really neat within your allotted cubic metric space. So you could have all of your lamps in these boxes, and then maybe your furniture pieces kind of in between them, and it's all protected in a single compact unit. So we'll take a look at a few more here. This one is like $11. It's pretty big. We'll just kind of click through them. So like I said, they have like kind of unique writing. Some of them actually just have, you know, paragraphs of foreign language text on them, which make them really cool and kind of more interesting than the ammunition containers you would see in the States. So you can also deconstruct these, and the wood is kind of vintage, so they'd be ideal for making signs out of, or furniture pieces, or whatever you like. So all kinds of sizes and shapes available. This one is pretty big. It's looks like it's about $6. And like I said, you find these in places where people deal in them, so you can buy them by the truckload. And the asking price is like $6 to $10. But if you're going to take 20 boxes, you're going to pick these up for like $5. So I don't think you can really beat that. Here's another one. This is more square, just to show that they do have some like different sizes and dimensions. This is about $11, maybe $10. Here's an interesting metal one, and it's got the thumb screws on the sides. So this is kind of a unique, quirky item, and this one actually is a little more expensive. It's metal. Let me see here. That's about $60, but I think that's worth $60. It's pretty cool. As a table, a coffee table in front of your couch, or if you have like an industrial theme kind of going on, you could raise these little thumb screws and then put a piece of glass over that, and it would be pretty cool. Yeah, these are like $11 per box. So just to show you that you can get these in volume, they are ubiquitous, they're everywhere. And they do have like different kinds of sizes, shapes, because military equipment is really varied, and so they need transport cases, and they just produce, and then all this stuff is just kind of out there to pick up. So this is very helpful because, like I said, you can screw it down. It is solid as a brick house, and it will protect your items. It will kind of give you the structure to be able to pack around your items, and it will keep them safe until they get to you in your shipment. So, and what you can do if you have that available capital is, you know, if you're shipping about, let's say, 3 cubic meters, I think 10 to 20 of these boxes will probably do you. You're looking at $200, and then you can easily unload those to somebody who's either a collector or a dealer back home, like I said. So you'll get your money back. You will benefit from having your items protected, and you won't be out any money. So there you have it. That's my tip. So thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you again soon.